everybody. Welcome to the National Real Estate Post, the NRP Daily, here with your host today, Frank Garay. And I have with me also our good friend over at the National Association of Mortgage Brokers, the president indeed, El Presidente, Kimber White. How are you, Kimber?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. You surviving?
Good. Surviving.
Surviving, baby.
Different change in the market. You know, we're starting to see it changing a little bit right now.
A lot of things happening out there, but let's just get into a couple of key items you wanted to bring up today that are important items that we need to let everybody know about. The first, there's two things, guys, some new loan level price adjustments and some new guidance and ruling from the CFPB. So let's talk about the new LLPA that is in effect, essentially in effect right now. What do we got?
Well, we kind of woke up to a surprise today that none of us knew about. It comes out that all of a sudden, as of yesterday, Fannie's basically placed a rule that, you know, they don't want more than a 7% share of second homes and owner-occupied, that loan level pricing adjustments are now going to be put in effect by all lenders because they're putting loan level pricing adjustments on. So lenders are already starting to take them. I saw some today, some tomorrow. This isn't when it's happening, it's happened. April 1st is when all this goes into effect. So of course, lenders are going to put it in for delivery, the loan level pricing adjustments. And there's two sides of why this is happening. One is they were hedging against inflation that we've already heard the word, starting. So they're hedging against that, where investors are coming in, the second home people, and flipping and flipping the loans and flipping. That's one. There's the other side, which I believe more, is that they're coming into here, again, put more money in to their coffers, get out of conservatorship, more to go into privatization and shoring up their financial situation. I'm going to go back to the situation of, adverse market P. It's going to be so bad because there's so many people refinancing and cash out, and we have to hedge against the people who are behind on their mortgages. There are a lot of people behind on the mortgages, but the people that have gone in and refinanced on their homes and done cash outs since those loan level price adjustments are just not what they said it was going to be. This is, once again, what is it going to do to an area that depends on it, like South Florida, that turns on those things and that do those things as far as second homes? How's it going to do on investment market? Our market's already it's heating up. Yes, there's no inventory, but what is it going to do? How's it going to affect us in the long term? What happens when the market slows down? What happens when people are buying second homes here, retirement homes? I'm using Florida here for an example, or investment properties. I see that this is going to be a negative impact for our community because we still have rates that are going to rise, and we know that. So we could see, realistically, back into the 5s, close to 6, for an investment property before the end of this year.
Wow. That is a big difference.
That throws a lot of people out. It's a big difference. You're going to see a 1/2 to 3/4 difference in your pricing at a very minimum on second homes and more on investments.
Yeah. So you mentioned that one of the reasonings behind this is they just want to keep the percentage of investment in second homes in their portfolio down, but I think you mentioned it's only about 7%. Is that where it's kind of sitting?
Well, they're saying that's what they're going to take is 7%. That's where they want to keep it at.
Okay.
So don't know what their investment is. They just don't want it. I think they're hedging themselves against it. I think that's what they're doing. Everyone can read the rule. Those that don't know it, prepare. If you've got a lender, you may want to check your lender today, and if you got one in, lock that loan, or if you've got one that's
get it locked.
And get it in today and get it locked because it's happening. And I just see that the negative impact, because as we all know, what does an investment home look at? You look at what your net income is going to be off of that. And if you're raising yourself a 1/2, 3/4 to a point in there, then it looks at your ratios. Also, the reserves that's already there, what's already required in the ratios that's already there from COVID overlays on investment properties, is now adding this on top of it. You've just narrowed your market for investment property buyers and second home buyers down quite a bit.
It's incredible. Yeah. So, okay, there you go. Happy Friday. Good morning, everybody. Pricing on second homes and investment properties have just gone up. So just so you know. More news coming out of the CFPB, and well, just lay it on us. What's the deal there, and then I'll throw my 2 cents in.
Well, the CFPB, first thing is we all know the Biden administration has definitely been for minority and anti-discrimination and fair housing for everyone. That's been their agenda since it came in. You look at Marsha Fudge, who just got sworn in as over at FHA. This is absolutely, the CFPB has just come out and made their interpretive rule that ECOA in Section B does encompass and cover sexual orientation and gender representation.
Okay.
So transgender, it includes it, and that they are going after and enforce that in housing, and that it will not be tolerated.
Okay, so here's where I want to jump in, because I think, probably many of us watching, or a lot of guys watching, mortgage peeps are probably thinking, well, whatever, we're fair. We don't discriminate. We don't do anything wrong. We're not, it's all good. But here's what I want to kind of emphasize is that what Kimber's saying is that the CFPB, it's kind of a gray area with ECOA, right? It was never really specifically said in there. So the CFPB is now coming out saying, well, it ain't gray to us. Okay, it's an inclusive of these demographics, right? That it includes them, and they also said, and we do intend to enforce it, right? So what that tells me, guys, is once again, me and Kimber and I have been saying this. We've been saying this for all year, right? It's not that we're not that deep in the year. But this first quarter, we've been saying this almost every show.
Yeah,
is that the Biden administration is very, very focused on equality and everything, right? And that means in housing and everything. And so even if I know, please hear me. I know you're not discriminating. I understand. But I think what they're going to be looking for is for lenders to not just not discriminate, but for lenders to really reach out to these underserved communities and to these minority groups and do a good job in reaching out to them to make sure you are providing financing to these groups of people. Reaching out, making effort to do more of that business. And now this includes how did you put it? What is it? The
LGBTQ plus.
There you go. So it includes this demographic of people as well. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is now when the CFPB comes in to do an audit, right? Or if they want to come in and do an investigation, this is another thing that they can now look at and enforce on. Do you see what makes sense? You see what I'm saying? It's like, so you got to be sure you're making note of this somehow in the files that you are doing for this demographic group of people, right? I mean, wouldn't you say that's a wise thing to do? Or
I think it's a wise thing to do, but also think that one thing you have to look at, and I tell everyone, I'm happy to, and I do not believe there's real discrimination that's intentional among our industry. I think we all look at it as a loan, a lender looks at it as a loan,
Yeah.
Do I think there are pockets in BFE USA? Probably.
Sure.
Just like there is for any demographic. It's just mentality. But what they also I think will look at is your advertising. How do you advertise? What are you doing? How are you trying to get? Are you just advertising to your demographic? I know, and it's sad to say this. I mean, we look at the Latino community, and they're just going to advertise and say to their group. We look at the are you just advertising to one demographic? Is that what does your advertising look like? What does your training look like? What does your office makeup look like? What do you have in place to meet the needs of the minority? And, yes, they have got the interpretation of LGBTQ plus in this rule, but we've been saying all year, and I've been saying it, they are talking about discrimination among all minorities. They've just clarified this rule. And if they've clarified this rule, it means they're going to take it a step further and make sure everybody is in there. And that's what we have to look at. It's not about, I do an application or loan for everyone else. What are your business practices? Unintentional business practices mean if someone came into your office and looked at an audit, could they get from you in your advertising practices, your market makeup, your policies, your procedures, if they've talked to your employees that work with you or your loan officers, could they get something out of there that you are discriminatory or perceived? Remember, there's a real fine line here.
Perceived. And an interesting point you brought up on your advertising efforts, and I was talking to a guy the other day, and we were talking about advertising and creating imagery, you know, for like Facebook advertising, things like that. And he says, you know, I'm to the point where I don't even put people. I won't put people. It's going to be like a building or, you know, a dog, you know, or because if you're not, you know, being inclusive about even, you know, who you put in your advertising, that could potentially be perceived as a problem. I think that's what you're trying to say. And I think that's what we're trying to convey to people is we know you're not discriminating. We get it. You know what I mean? But it's going to go deeper than that going forward. And that's what we have to be aware of.
And we look at the fact is, we know we look at it, but you got to look at what brought them to this. People ask me what brought them to this. Because if you ask 50 to 55% of the LGBTQ community, they feel discriminated against, or they are worried that they will be discriminated against. Just like when you ask the same thing about African American, you ask about Latino, these people feel, and perception is reality. And the CFPB is saying, we're not going to tolerate it. We want you to do something so that they're not feeling that way. We want you to show it in your actions to be enticing and inviting. And exactly what you said about people and ads. That's number one. That's just not good social media advertising or advertising at all. It's when you start putting people, because you start getting blocked into that block. It is better for houses, buildings. That is something I've always learned about marketing. You know, that is, and if you're going to post pictures of your closings, which people do on the line, hi, I just closed Joe, and all of a sudden, everything that you see is a white person or Latino person or whatever it may be, you know, that's a flag. You know, I know it may not mean it to you, but that's a flag. So when you are doing closings, kind of, if you're going to post pictures, I know you do everybody, we do everybody, post pictures of the whole group.
Make sure you're being diverse.
Don't post pictures at all. Make sure you're being diverse.
Yeah, make sure you're being diverse.
The Biden administration is about is diversity. You know, they've got big housing bills coming up. It's just together. We're not saying, and again, I've been a broker for 33 years. I want everyone to remember that. I'm in the trenches every day with you. I'm a producing broker. I have the ability sometimes to not realize, and I have to be very careful and make sure we're mindful of what we're doing and that we're not getting into a rut. So that's everyone. Just be mindful of your business practices, because the CFPB, HUD, everyone is on this train.
There you go. From Kimber White, President of the National Association of Mortgage Brokers. Guys, thanks for joining us today. I'll put a banner to NAM down below so you can check out NAM and join them. And with that, Kimber, thanks so much. We'll have you back next week. All right. You guys do us a favor. Leave your comments down below. Forward, share, and subscribe. We'll catch you later here at the National Real Estate Post.